Okay, should be seeming much better. Now, again, don't save in that Python library. I'll just keep harping about that because it causes so much trouble. I saved to my H drive my CIS120 folder, now my Spring 19 folder, and we had saved 2 programs last time, right? We had Hello World, and then we had our Hello Movie. I'm going to open the Hello Movie. We're not going to change it or anything. I just want to remind you how to get it open and how to run it. This was a pretty good program for just getting started. You guys are just taking off like crazy. So in our program, we used the 3 single quotes up here to make a block comment. This was like our header comment, right? That just kind of is an overview of our whole program. And then we used the hashtag or pound sign to declare our just line comment. And we could do that after code if we wanted to on a line, put a comment like that, a line comment. So first we declared our variables. Now we saw with Python, we don't have to declare our variables. Python will kind of figure out what data type they are for us. But we want to declare our variables because we're just getting used to doing that kind of stuff as beginning programmers. Then we prompted for input. We saw that we could print out a message. We have a nice message welcoming them to our program. Then we ask them for their favorite movie. If you remember with this line of code, we're doing an input statement. The input statement works by displaying the prompt to the user, whatever our string is, that's within the parentheses. And then whatever the user types there at the console gets saved in the variable that we have assigned that value to before the equal sign. Now the next line, we actually asked for a number. How many times have you watched it? And we saw that our input statement by default gives us a string, and that was causing us trouble if we tried to do math with it. So we cast that string as an integer before we put it and saved it in our num times variable. So with all of these different lines of code, if you want to walk through and do some color coding, you might want to print it out and make some notes. Might be perfectly clear and you don't need to do anything. All those things are great. Now we only had one calculation in our code. We took the number of times that somebody had watched a movie times our average time variable and just counted that as time they had lost, just so we could do a calculation. Then we printed out our data, told them what their favorite movie is and how much time they'd lost to it. Do you want to run it again? It's been so many days. Just remind ourselves how to run. Now, when we use this run command, we can do F5 if we want. So it's up to you. We see our Python interpreter pop up in our output. What is your favorite movie? Oh no, you guys should send me a movie in the chat. What's your favorite movie? Because I can't think of movies. Let's see. Last time I just typed in bogus stuff and that's not very good. Isn't there something, how about Star Wars? I can think of that one. I've watched it a few times, I guess. So it tells me what I've done there and how much time I've lost. So cool. So our program, that wasn't really our first one, but it was a pretty good sized one and it works really well. So today I'd like to create one for our sale price program. If you remember the sale price program in our textbook, they said that we have a store and we have items that we have on sale. So we asked for in Raptor and in our pseudocode, we asked for the original price of the item and the percent discount, the amount that it was on sale for, and then we displayed that information. So let me see if I can find that pseudocode. I'm going to open Notepad++, because that's what we were using for our pseudocode. One thing I love about Notepad++ is it just brings back right the thing you were working on, doesn't it? Only that's not the right one. This one looks pretty close. So whenever we created our pseudocode here, we said that we needed to declare some variables. We see that when we do that in Python, we have much less, right? Because all we have to do is the variable name and say equal to something, and Python figures out what that data type is. So much less than what our pseudocode said we might have to have for some languages. So we declared all of our variables. Then we wrote out a message asking for the item name and read it in. We asked for the original price and read it in. And then we asked for the discount percent. We did a couple of calculations to figure out how much money was being saved and what the new price was going to be. And then we output our results. Now, if you have this pseudocode, it can be helpful because we can copy and paste some of this information, like our output lines, into Python. So I'm going to slide it off to my other screen. So if you see me copying and pasting and you think I'm typing really fast, I am not typing that fast. Pasting. So in idle, I want to create a new file. So we all set? Make sure okay. I know you were gone last time. Last time was a hard one to miss because we were starting our Python stuff. Oh, I finally got a movie suggestion. All right, let's do file, new file. And I want to save this thing because if you remember, the first thing it's going to do when we try to run it is ask us to save it. So I'll go ahead and choose save or save as. Again, I'm going to navigate to the correct place. Not just going to save there because I can break things. It's not very often that you can actually break things, but you can here. Now, what do we want to save this one? This is going to be our Chapter 3 Sale Price Program Python. So should we call it Chapter 3? Not really.
I just name my sales price Python.
Sale Price Program Python is probably a better name because we just keep using the same thing. So I will get rid of that chapter alignment too. It's a nice common thing. We all like to buy things on sale. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is our header comment block. So find my cursor. I'm going to do our 3 tick marks and put in some documentation here. So we'll say this script is the sale price program. Doesn't like me pressing tab, does it? Can you see it doing that? Mine is acting really weird. It's like probably the Zoom session that it's going crazy. Let me close this. I'm going to close idle and close all of these files I have open and then try that again because it was just going nuts. See if it's better. Sometimes, you know, if you hit insert, it gets in that weird insert mode. But this one was just weird idle mode. So next week or so, we'll try a different editor because idle is kind of fundamental and we'd like something that's a little bit bigger, a little bit better, bigger and better. So today's date and our purpose. We want to calculate the sale price.
I have an extra
Oh, thank you. Yeah, idle's just being a little weird for me, so help me if it does weird things like that, and I'll try to keep up with it. Have one of you guys type here. Okay, let's declare our variables. So again, I'm just going to put a nice line comment, declare the variables. And we decided that we needed an item name variable, and this was a string. So we're just going to make it an empty string by using the 2 double quotes. We needed discount rate, and it was going to be an integer. So I'll just set it to 0. Now I'm doing bad things here. I'm going to change these variables to have lowercase variable names, because Python is really more lowercase variables. So our pseudocode has them all in uppercase, but for Python we really prefer to have them in lowercase. Okay, the next variable that we need to declare is original price. And again, we'll start it as 0, initialize it. We have a total price. Tax. Sale price. And our amount saved. And we could put some comments on here. Let's do that. Let's think about it. I could say this is holds the item name, and then our discount rate. This will be amount percent the item is on sale. The original price. I can't think of anything creative to say about that. Now the total price, is this going to be our new price? Seems like it. The total price calculated with the sale. And then this one will be the amount of tax. The sale price, this is kind of our total price before tax. Do you want to put it like that? The total price before tax. And then that way, if somebody looks at this later, they know what the difference is between those 2 variables. And then the amount saved is going to be the discount amount. When you turn in programs, get these header comments are what I'd like to see. So that's what the rubric is looking for when it says that it's going to give you points for comments. The additional comments that you do, you know, I really encourage you to do those, but I'm not going to take any points off of your program if you don't. Some people like a lot of comments, some people don't. So it's just kind of a matter of taste. We always encourage everybody to do a lot of commenting because it helps other people. But then I always say, it helps other people if the comments are right. So I've seen some programs where comments hadn't been updated and things like that, where they were actually kind of a problem for you. So we want to always make sure that we're making sure that they are up to date. Okay, so let's prompt for input. We're ready. The first thing we want to ask for is our item name. We saw with Python, if we look at our quick reference and we see how we want to use the input statement, here's an example I had in my quick reference. I put input, and then within parentheses, within double quotes, the string that I wanted to use is the prompt for my user. So I will do that. The variable that I'm going to be collecting here is our item name. So I'm going to get the value for that by using the input statement. And our prompt was pretty basic, just said enter item name. The next thing we need to prompt for is our original price. And we just ask for the original price. Now, when we look at our quick reference, is there anything we need to do extra for that price? We said that if we just use the regular input statement, that's going to give us a string. Yeah, so we need to cast that. But we don't want our price to be an integer, do we? We want it to be more of a float type variable that can have decimal places. So let's use float. So I'm going to wrap this in that, put my parentheses, and then before that, put that word float. Now you can type those changes however is easiest for you. Sometimes I'll put the parentheses first because that makes me think, okay, I'm wrapping this up to pass it to this float function. So good. Now we should have our original price. We need to prompt for our discount percent. Same way, it's going to be a float. Is it going to? No, it's going to be an integer because we're going to use it as an integer. So I'm going to convert it to an integer. So my input prompt is going to say discount percent. Beautiful. Now we should have all of our data. We can run this. Let's try it and just make sure our prompts look good and there isn't anything squished up against anything else. So our item name prompt. Now, whenever we're working with numbers, if we type something non-numeric at this point, it's going to break our program. So be careful as you're inputting things because we don't have any data validation in there to make sure that things are numeric. So if they're not, it'll just cancel. Let's try it so we can see what it does. I'm going to run this again, and I'm going to put in a non-numeric value. And that big bunch of red stuff is saying could not convert this string that you typed in to a float value. So that error message down there tells us exactly what's going on, that we had a non-numeric input. All right, so we've got all our data collected. If everybody's looking good, we're ready to just do some calculations. So let's process our data, kind of our calculations phase. So first we're going to calculate our amount saved. It's going to be our original price times our discount rate divided by 100. Now it seems like when we were doing this for pseudocode, we thought we needed to do something in this formula to make sure that things happened in the right order.
Add parentheses,
Around which?
discount rate, and
The divide? Great. We want to make sure that happens first. Perfect. So that should give us our discount amount. Then let's calculate our sale price. It's going to be our original price minus that amount saved. Now our tax is actually 0.065. So I feel like we should set up a variable for that. In our textbook, they talk about constant variables, variables that don't change. And Python doesn't really care about that per se, but we could create a variable that holds that amount instead of having it just hard-coded in our program. So let's go back up to our variable declarations, and let's create a new variable, tax, and I'm going to make it all uppercase, tax AMT. And I'm making it all uppercase to indicate to other programmers that it's a constant. It's an unchanging value. And I want to set this to 0.065. And this will be the amount of tax, and we're making it a constant. Now for our next line, we're going to actually use that tax amount in our calculation to calculate our tax. So our tax is going to be equal to our sale price times that tax amount variable. Now when you look at this, if somebody came in, management came in and said, we need to change our tax amount from 0.065 to 0.075, it would be a lot easier to find and change up here in this one place in the variable declarations than it would be to go search for it and find it all throughout our code. So that's why we don't want to have literal values in our code like that if we can prevent it. I do have this 100 though. That one's a little bit different, isn't it? Because we divide by that so much to make a percentage. So we'll kind of use bad habits with it. But anyways, we've got our tax calculated now, so we're ready to do our total price. And it's going to be that sale price we just calculated plus our tax. Now we're ready to output our results. This is where I'm going to try to copy from my pseudocode. I'm going to use that print statement and put in my opening parenthesis, and then I'm going to copy my string. Because we had a lot of different strings and concatenation and stuff going on in there. So our output should now say the item name is whatever our discount rate is, % off. We saw last time that if we try to print out a number like this using string concatenation, Python gets really mad. We have to convert this number to a string. And I have to make it a lowercase d because I did change those variable names, and a lowercase I. So my pseudocode is pretty good, but I have a few changes because I wanted to use the Python lowercase naming standards. Now our next line of output was the original price. And again, I'll just make my original price variable name lowercase. And then our last one is the sale price. Now my last line here, I'm going to make my variable names lowercase. And let's see what else needs to be changed. We know that every place we're outputting a number, we've got to cast that as a string. So I'm going to change my original price, put STR, and wrap it in parentheses to change it to a string. And then I need to do the same thing with my sale price. And my amount saved. If I can get to it. Bless you. Okay, you should be able to run it, see if it's all working. Now, instead of pseudocode where we just look at it and think, well, I think that's good, I think that's right, we can actually make sure it's all working. And I know this is a lot more substantial than what your assignment is for this week. But don't discount that one, because sometimes when you're all alone, it seems to be a little bit more difficult. I'm going to run it, save it. Are you getting any errors? I'm getting an enter item name, sale item. My original price is $10. I have a 20% discount, so I should see, let's see, the original price is 10. Looks like something's wrong there, huh? Okay, who's got syntax errors? Can you share your screen? I'm going to stop my share. Will you share yours so we can all benefit? All right, share it, share it. Let's see.
I'm not logged in.
Oh, that's all right. We got Madison here. Okay, hang on. Let me get this over there where everybody can see it. It doesn't cooperate. Okay, can you, okay, it's tiny. Can anybody see what's wrong with this print statement?
I've got that one too.
Now, sometimes when you see an error like that, what kind of message does it give you when you try to run it?
It just said syntax error.
Syntax error, so it's not very helpful at all. It doesn't tell you anything. So that word print looks right. Sometimes you want to look at the stuff around it. So for me, I'm thinking, well, we added all of those different places where we had to cast this as a string. So I bet it's a missing parenthesis somewhere.
It is the line above.
The line above, very good.
Oh,
Now let's see if that takes care of it. Looks good. Any others?
why is it coming out at 0% off?
We're going to have to figure that out. We're going to have to do some debugging. Have to get your ducks out. Let's debug it. Now let me share mine again. What have we got wrong?
Discount is not defined. Oh, because it's
Well, you know what I'd like to do? I want to copy all this code. So I'm in idle. I'm going to Control A to select all and Control C. And I'm going to open that website where I can visualize code running. So search with me, visualize Python. You'll see it pop up sort of. The actual site is pythontutor.com. It's kind of a small URL if you can see that. In pythontutor.com, we've looked at it real quick, but you can put your code in here and execute it, and then we can visualize it and see what's going on. So I'm going to do a Control V to paste it. So it kind of gives us that raptor sort of capability of being able to see what our variable values are. Now up at the top it says write code in Python 3.6. That should be correct for us. So I'm just going to pop all my code in there, and I'm going to scroll down and choose Visualize Execution. Server may be overloaded. Great. I think when we all do it, it's just like crazy. I'm going to paste again and try again. It's not doing it. Well, we're going to have to do old school debugging then. We can handle that. Is it running for anybody?
It could also just be a firewall thing.
Yeah, it's always worked. I've had to work with them on the firewall, but they might have done something that broke it. Okay, so we'll have to do some old school debugging to figure this out. So let's do it. Do you see something?
Yeah, I left the capital.
I want to print our amount saved after we calculate it. Now, notice I don't have to convert it to a string or anything on just doing a regular print because I'm not trying to concatenate it with other strings. So it should print it out for me okay. We'll see. Then I want to print our sale price. I'll print our tax. So when we do debugging like this, where we just put in print statements, we're just checking to see what the value of our variables are at certain places so that we can see what's going on, what's going wrong, because something is not happening the way that we think it should. So I'm going to run this now. And I've got my enter item name prompt. Let's say my original price was 20. My discount percent is 10. So that first item is getting a 0 value. The first thing that I printed was the amount saved. Do you see a problem with it? Do you see what might be causing our trouble? I think I do. The thing is, remember, Python doesn't care if a variable is declared or not. So I could be accidentally using a variable that isn't declared, that's not getting our input data. Let's double check. Here, we're using item name. That's okay, we're not using it for any calculations anyway. Original price, that's what I named it up here, what I named it here. I think that's what I named it in the calculation. That looks good. Total price. Oh, we don't having trouble with it yet. So my problem is my original price. Now I see that I'm multiplying that original price by our discount percent to get that amount saved. And my amount saved is what's ending up with 0. So it must be in that line, right? That calculation. Right here. Yeah. So notice how Python let me use that different name that wasn't declared anywhere, and it didn't give me any sort of problem or anything, because it was just like, sure, I'll allocate that variable for you. But now I have discount percent variable that has some data in it, and I'm using my discount rate variable down here for the calculation. So I'm not getting the right result. So when I prompt the user for input, that needs to go into the discount rate. And on a small program like this, it's harder to make a mistake like that, right? Because it's all right on the screen in front of us. But as we get to working with larger and larger programs, it gets easier and easier to make that kind of mistake. So programmers will get to where they name variables in kind of a certain way so that they always can be consistent with that and not have to always be going back and looking. Let's run it now and see if we're getting some valid results. Here's my item name. I still want a pillow. I'm going to make it 20 with a 10% discount. That looks a lot better. Looks good. So right now it's not super pretty, right? We don't have dollar signs, and our output decimal places look a little bit funky. We're just got 1.0 there. That's okay. We'll learn how to format all that output pretty soon. Any questions with it? Is it working for everybody?
Mine's giving me the right numbers now, but I have some places where the print is all smushed together. Like, and
So
some
check your
places,
output. Let's go ahead and share your screen.
uh,
Let me stop mine.
I would get that one good,
Did
actually.
you find it?
Like where it says item name, I need to put a space in there.
Yep, just fix it up like that. That'll be perfect. Okay, so I look at grades and I see we do have a few people, some go-getters that are done with the Code Academy and the other website and their program. Wow. But I wouldn't expect everybody to be, and everybody's not, so that's okay. Now we have some, let me get into student mode here on Canvas. Oh, spacey. Very spacey. It's not letting me get in. Let's see what I need to complete. I'll show it to you that's kind of in gray. So I'm not going to go complete all these things while you guys are watching. For our new week for this week, we're going to be looking at using if statements with Python. So we've already talked about making decisions like in our pseudocode and in flowcharts, that kind of logic. So now we're going to add that to Python. So last week being kind of like a one-day week, we just kind of looked at Python. So your assignments for this week coming up, we'll have another unit in Code Academy, another unit in the Runestone Academy, which hopefully you see those run really quickly. You can go through them really fast. One thing about this Code Academy unit, when they get into if statements, I don't know what happened to them, but sometimes they create this if statement that's like 48 characters long for you to type in to see if it comes out as true or false. You can copy that if statement from the instructions and paste it into your code so that you can get through that section. Otherwise, it kind of takes forever. So you don't really need to type all of those unless you want to. Just trying them and seeing what happens is good enough. Our Runestone stuff, again, will be decision making, the same type stuff, just a little bit different of an angle to try to get it to you in another way. So besides those training modules, we have a program assigned that'll be one where you'll just do an if statement and check to see if a number that was input is positive, negative, or 0. So we'll be adding an if statement to that. So I'm telling you this because if you're all done with the week 6 stuff, good job. Here are the week 7 ones for you to get started on. If you're not all done with the week 6 stuff, that's fine, totally understandable. You'll have a lot of time right now to work on it. So stay here to work on it if you like. If you want to have some help, you run into problems. But if you are more comfortable working on it from home, that's fine too. Anybody got any questions? Okay, good. Good job.